So today is July 12th, 2017, and I want to talk to you a little. I'm here with Akiva and Rena, my mother, and Phyllis soon. I want to talk to you and ask you questions, some of which I know the answers to, and probably most of which I don't, about your career, so to speak, and the Rabbanos and how that got started and developed, and also the interactions you had with interesting people over the years. I actually wanted to ask you first, just as a kid. I remember last time you told me that in Wien you knew you knew the Kapizhnitzer Rebbe. Who else do you remember from the Gedolei Yisrael in meeting as a child?
Well, Vienna was an interesting town from many points of view. It was a composite of Washington Heights, Borough Park, Flatbush, 5 towns.
Yeah.
You had all of this within a few square miles. What people have to understand is that Jewish history depends a lot upon world history. That we find ourselves in certain places because of the forces of historical events. Very few Jews in Vienna chose Vienna as their hometown because they wanted to. I mean, what I have to make clear here is very important. But digress for a second to a term that is used pejoratively and sometimes used in a good sense, the word yeke. People try to find out what does the word yeke mean and why has it become such an important lexicon in Jewish life. And what role did Vienna play in all this? A lot has to do with the way things worked out in world history. The fact is that history, which is one of my favorite topics in school and in college, is controlled by the Rabbanu Shalom, from my perspective. Divine interventions, divine deeds. And how is it the Jews came to live in Vienna? It has a lot to do with what I'm going to discuss with you later on.
But who particularly, whether in Vienna or outside of Vienna, that you remember from, whether you ever meet Rabbi Chaim Eiser? I know you have a story with, Opa was close with Rabbi Chaim Eiser, right?
Very.
Did you ever meet him?
It depends on what you mean by meet. Did I meet him person to person, talk to him? No.
Did you see him?
I saw him.
Yeah.
Rabbi Chaim Eiser was a real manhig. He understood the world and the people in it. But I want to come back to my statement about history. History is made by the Rabbanu Shalom, from our perspective. And if we would not understand why things happen in history, we would be much better off, or maybe worse off. Historical events, as we will say in the Chumash, in the Rambam, many places, especially Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, are controlled by the Rabbanu Shalom. Because people will say to you, forget about the Rabbanu Shalom. But even people who are not religious have to admit that things don't happen by themselves. There is a very famous midrash which I'm sure you know. How did Avraham Avinu come to, let's use the word discover, Hashem? By the way, the word Hashem means the name, Hashem Yisborach. And it's important to understand there are many Christians who refer to whom, when speaking to Jews, as Hashem. I may or may not have mentioned to you, but one of my very dear friends is a Catholic bishop, William Murphy. He just retired. He retired because, as he put it, the Holy Father in Rome said to him, Bishop, it's time to retire, come to Rome, spend time in what I would call the koilel, and write, do research. Bishop Murphy was the bishop of a large group of Catholic parishes in Long Island, in the Oceanside area, in that neighborhood of Long Island. And he was always not only friendly of Jews, he understood what Jews are all about, maybe even better than Jews do. At every holiday, or what would you call Chag, he sent a message to the Jewish people in Oceanside, in that neighborhood, addressed to my Jewish friends, good wishes for Pesach, for Shavuos, and in his letters to Jews, he used the word not God, or the Lord, or the other name, Yeshem, Hashem. And they asked him why. He said, I want to speak to my Jewish friends. If I speak about the Lord, I'm not on their level of friendship. If I use the word Hashem, a term which most Jews know, not all, they realize a friend is speaking. He loved Jews, he loves Jews, he's alive. And had many, many Jewish friends. How did I get to know him? And that in itself is an interesting story of American Jewry. When I got smicha, if you don't believe I have smicha, look at the wall outside.
I know.
I was a newcomer from England to the United States, went to Yeshiva University, Yeshiva is Rabbi Yitzchak. And that was my first encounter with men whom I would call giants in Jewish life. One of them was the president of YU, Dr. Belkin, Samuel Belkin, whose office was on Amsterdam Avenue. And I had come to the United States for a very simple reason. My brother, your uncle, Uncle Bibi, the doctor, always wanted to go to medical school. But at that time in England, he couldn't get accepted. A, he didn't have the money, and B, because he was not a British citizen, which made it a bit more difficult. But his mind was always on medical school. Like yours used to be.
Yes.
And the Pnei Menachem encouraged you.
Yeah, that'll be my story to tell when you interview me.
Yeah.
But I just want to interrupt you for a second. We'll get back to Dr. Belkin. But before we get to the giants that you met at YU, just as a child before you came to America, you met the Rogachover at some point.
Yes.
How did that happen?
The Rogatchover, Tzadik Livrocha, if you went to yeshiva, and by the way, in London, there's only one real yeshiva. Yeshiva High School called Talmud Torah, which Debbie saw last week in Vienna. And the number of Jews in Vienna was about 200,000 people. And to describe Vienna as I did last time, you have to understand the nickname given to Vienna for Jews was in German called the Matzes-Insel, the island of Matzes. That was called.
But the Rogatchover you didn't meet in Vienna, though.
In Vienna.
The Rogatchover you met in Vienna?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'll tell you that.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
I didn't go to Rogatchover. The Rogatchover was. Now that school was an Orthodox school. Most people were center and right. Very few left-wing Jews, what you call left-wing today. And the teachers were all very fine people. They weren't all called rabbi. In America, it was a rabbi. Rabbi his, rabbi that, teachers. If you teach in a school, doesn't make you a rabbi. A professional rabbi, I mean. It was a very good school, but my father was a Chaim Rocha, and some of his friends felt they weren't getting enough. It was a secular school and a religious school, and the secular studies were controlled sometimes by Jews, sometimes by non-Jews. It was a Jewish school in every respect. In Hashkafa, I would say something like, I wouldn't say like Flatbush, there's far more to the right than Flatbush is today. About the population that lived in a Jewish neighborhood, the second district.
Was it co-ed?
Hmm?
Was it boys and girls?
No.
So, MBA.
The girls,
MBA.
the girls went to Bes Yaakov, which was across the street in a separate building. And so, my father and some of his friends felt, we've got to give these boys more knowledge of Torah, of Gemara, and Shas and Poskim. And so they took us out of the school, few people, and started their own private school called Yesodei Torah. And they hired Rabbeim to teach. They hired English teachers, meaning secular teachers. At the end of the school year, you had to go to the local public school and take tests. You passed the tests, they accepted it as a proper means of education. At any rate, at that time, Vienna was the headquarters of medical practice in Central Europe. A doctor from Vienna, professor from Vienna, they were like the Mayo Clinic here. Many of the Gedolei Yisrael came to Vienna for medical advice. Many big rabbis, Rosh Yeshiva. One of them was the Rogatchover, Rabbi Yasher Rosen. They called him Dwinsker, because he was off in Dwinsk. And we can sit here and talk about him for hours. He was not just angelic, he was totally out of the surroundings near him. He was known as the big God. And then he came to Vienna for surgery. And was in a hospital in Vienna. And some of the Rabbanim in Vienna went to visit him. Themselves big, great Talmidei Chachamim. So in one of the visits by them to him, he said, I want to see the Naturkarte. What's the Naturkarte? In Gemara. The Rabbi Yehuda Nasi came to a town and said, I want to meet the Naturkarte, guardians of the town. So the chief of police came. He said, that's not the Naturkarte. That's Mechavekarte. You destroyed the city. Machriven. Who's the Naturkarte? Jewish children who go to yeshiva, to school. So the people around him went to the yeshiva, or little bottom midrashim, and made selections of boys that would go and visit him, the Rogatchover. I was one of them. Don't ask me why, but it was. And you came into his room, and he looked like a lion, big made of hair and bears. And he said, I want to meet in the Naturkarte of Vienna. So each yeshiva or little besmedrash, don't forget there was only one yeshiva, institutional, but there were many hundreds of Jews who opened little yeshivas in the Schneeblach and hired rabbis of their own. And he made sure that these school children come to visit him. This is how boys like me managed to see him. The Rogatchover, if you saw him, the famous picture you've seen holding up his hand like this, they were taking pictures of him. He didn't want any pictures to be taken of him. And this is how we came to see him. He didn't survive the surgery.
Did not?
No.
Did he speak to you at all? Did you speak to him when you visited him? Was there a conversation at all?
No, not really.
Isn't there a part that he told you that you spoke by the Rambam?
Yeah. So we stood at the door of the hospital room. And he said to the Rabbanim who were present, there's Rabbi Shaya first, of the Shivshul. There was Rabbi Yerucham, who was the leader of the Polish Chassidish Yidden. And he said to them, this is what our people need to know. These are the people of the Jewish people, the schoolboys. And he said, you know, the Rambam says in Hiras Melachim that Mashiach will come, the famous capital in Yeshaya, there'll be peace, there's Amanam Cherev, and there will be peace in the world. Vigar Zev and Kevis, the lion, the wolf and the sheep will live together, and the ox and the asses and the horses were working together, pulling the plows. Vinar cotton Neubam, and a little boy will lead them. What does it mean? It means there will be peace in the world, and Shalom it will be because of the little boy, the little boys who are around and become great leaders. So the question is, why does it say Vinar cotton Neubam? Why not cotton? He said because this climb, Shah v'chamar yachtov, the donkey and the ox will work together. That's climb. And our cotton is part of a climb. This is what it says. Interesting enough, at the Levaya, which took place the day after he was niftar, there was a discussion, where do we bury him? The people from Dvinsk said, in Dvinsk, the Rav in Dvinsk was a Rabbi Simcha. of the yeshivish world, the Rogat Sheva was basically a Ger Chosed. Not like Ger Chosed today, but he was the one that the Ger Rebbe used to consider the Manik Oilam. And that's just the time when we saw him. The Levaya the next day was held at the offices of the Tzira Agudas Yisrael. And who was elected to be Shamrim overnight? The boys that visited him. There was a big machlekes, peaceful machlekes, which is antithetical by the machlekes, whether they should be buried in Vienna or be buried in Dvinsk.
Well, you were one of the boys that did Shmira?
Yeah.
How old were you?
I would say 11, 12.
And you
I wasn't the only one.
I
There were
understand.
hundreds of people there. But these boys were picked out to be officially Shamrim. Binar Kotten Eichmann. He didn't have Talmidim like the yeshiva. He was the Rav of Dvinsk. And he had a Talmud named Alter Fuchs, a young boy from Vienna. We used to go to him to visit him occasionally. And he appointed him to be his Memare Mokem. His relatives in Forest Hills. And nobody knows why. This Alter Fuchs was a genius, an Eloi. But a young man, maybe 19, 20. Because of the Rogat knew if you're going to come to replace him, the big machlekes in the world. This Rav and that Rav. So he selected his youngest Talmud, like Shalom Melech at the time. And the Rogat Sheva was accepted by all the Gedolim. The only ones who had the knowledge and the courage to disagree with him was Reb Chaim Soloveitchik. Reb Chaim. They knew of him, he knew of them.
Did you ever meet Reb Chaim?
Reb Chaim was nifter before I was born.
And what about Reb Meir Simcha? Did you ever meet him?
No.
So you mentioned that a lot of the people, a lot of the Gedolim used to come, to Vienna for medical procedures. Did you meet any other
I met-
Gedolim Yisrael that way?
I met the Slutzker Rav, forget his name was Latsker. And he had a grandson in Detroit at the yeshiva. So Reb Chaim, when he had a difficult shaila, this Rav Soloveitchik told us in class, he would ask the opinion of in Agunas and also the Rogat Sheva. We say, this is the case, give me your psak. Don't give me your svaros. Your svaros are krum. Your svaros make no sense. Just give me your psak. I'm not interested in your svaros, he said.
He said to the Rogat Sheva?
Reb Chaim, to the Rogat Sheva. And I need your opinion, what to do in this case. But don't give me your reasons. Your svaros are krum. The Rav used to say to us in Shir very often.
What about the Imre Emes? Did you ever meet the Imre Emes?
I met the Imre Emes. Sure, I met him. I really met him once.
When was that?
The Imre Emes encourages Chassidim, Ger Chassidim, to make Aliyah. To go to Eretz Yisrael. He was a tremendous Ohev Eretz Yisrael. Derech Hagav, you should know the problem of Yom Tov Sheni Shegolis. He had a different take on this altogether. The Boston Rebbe Zachariah Dvorak came to Israel, and on the way back he stopped in Switzerland. We were at that time in Switzerland, and his wife was grandma's cousin. We went to see him. He said the reason he left was around Shavuos time. Before Shavuos, because of the problem of Yom Tov Sheni. He said, I asked Rabbi Yashiv, Rabbi Shlomo Zalman, Rabbi Shmuel Salant, about Yom Tov Sheni. These Gedolim Yerushalayim did not believe that people from America have to keep 2 days, the second day Yom Tov Sheni. So he came to Switzerland in order not to have to be in Israel for Shavuos. The question what to do.
And the Imre Emes was Niftar on Shavuos.
That's right.
So when did you met him in Eretz Yisrael or in Europe?
Met him in Vienna.
Yeah.
He went to Israel 3 times, I think. And each time he stopped at the home of Moshe Schreiber. You know, they have cousins, the Schreibers.
I remember Moshe Schreiber, yeah.
No, you didn't remember him.
No?
No. There's a Moshe Schreiber in Bauer Park, his grandson.
No, but who was this?
Avram Schreiber.
Oh, Avram Schreiber. Right.
Avram Schreiber's father.
Right.
Avram Schreiber's father was a great Gerach, but didn't look like it. He had a beard. He was a Gabbai of the Ship Shul, which was the Yekes Shul in Vienna. He went to Shul Friday, Shabbos, with a top hat, with a tuxedo.
And the Imre Emes stayed by him?
I stayed by him, yes. How did, there's some ciphers, how did they come to be that close? The Sam Sofer had a son, Reb Shemesh Schreiber. It was the Rav in Krakow. He had a son, Avram Shmuel Ben Yomen, who was in Prashburg, took over the yeshiva. And Moshe Schreiber had a large apartment. If members came, he would stay. He went by boat wherever he went. He would stay there for a few days, and people would come and see him. So the boss of the Rebbe told me that the Pnei Menachem was the youngest son of the Imre Emes, told him they were there for Pesach. And during Chol Pesach, he called in his sons, and he said to them, Yom Tov Sheni Acher Shel Pesach, you put on tefillin, you daven the Nusach what it in Yerushalayim, it's a Yom Chol for you. The only thing you should not do, don't eat chametz. Right? So the Ger Rebbe was very much interested that there should not be a Yom Tov Sheni Shegolos for Chutz La'aretz people. There's a lot to be said about this whole thing.
Yeah, I know, it's a big,
Yeah.
lot discussed about it.
The Rav's opinion was that there should be only one day. However, he said, you can't have it both ways. Israelis who come to America have to keep 2 days. You can't have it both ways.
But I had a second Seder with you in Vicky's house, you and Grandma.
Remember that? Yeah.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
So the Imre Emes was a very big chassid.
So when you met him when he was in Vienna, did you speak to him at all? You
Who?
just saw the Imre Emes.
I'm coming to that.
Yeah.
You asked me if I saw him.
Yeah. Okay, so now okay, go ahead.
So Opa, my father, took us to see the Imre Emes. To give Shul and Rem, asked for a broche, you write a kvittel. And Ger the Rebbe took kvitlach without money. If you gave him money, you made it to the yeshiva, not to them. So the Emes is sitting, as a matter of fact, go down to the study on the wall, is a picture of the Imre Emes looking in the Tehillim. It's downstairs.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And this is what he did when he was in Vienna. He learned the shiurim and said Tehillim. That picture was taken in Vienna. So I remember my father writing a kvittel, give it to Imre Emes, who was sat in his chair, read it, and then he said, that I remember. And was is mit Yerushalayim? I was a little boy, would I understand? So my father told me. In the quittel he wrote there was a bracha for his sons, Hasmoda Belimut. So the Imam says, Hasmoda Belimut, why don't you ask for Yerushalayim? And it says, but Yerushalayim is also limud. The man tilmat lirs Hashem Elokecha.
Kol bidei Shemayim chutz miYerushalayim.
Well, this is when I saw him, the Imramis. And hundreds of people came to see him. And he only said one or two words to everybody. As a matter of fact, the Rabbi of today, Rabbi Yaakov, gesund, last Yontif, he made an announcement to the Gabbai that those who come from Chutz La'aretz should not make a separate minyan for Yontif Sheni in the Besmedrash. You've been to the Rachav Schneller?
Yeah.
Downstairs was the Besmedrash. And people used to daven, came from Chutz La'aretz, the Yontif Tzilut. And the Rebbe this past year said, no more. That's as hard as one day, that's it. If you want to daven again, go someplace else, not now Besmedrash. Your uncle, our uncle, your uncle actually, Maya Shapira, you remember him?
Of course.
Aunt Pearl's
Of
husband.
course.
He learned the Chevron before the war. And the Chevron you had quite a lot of Chutz La'aretz Talmidim. It came Yontif Sheni, they took an apartment in Shara Chesed, near Yerushalayim, and they davened their own minyan. Their mistake was that this apartment was next door to the house of Tzvi Pesach Frank, the Rosh Hashiva, the Rav Yerushalayim. He comes out of the house and he sees people, man singt, man tanzt. He says, "Ma koret po?" Yontif, was Yontif Yontif? Yontif Sheni? Ziluse the Arde Yisrael. You're making me ashamed to be a Jew? That I'm Mashaygas because I take the car? Yontif Sheni. And he stopped it. He said, if you would have your own minyan, go to some forest someplace and do it. What's interesting is that the Rabbanim of the Yeshiva Yoshin, Shmuel Salam, were opposed to it too.
Did you ever meet Rav Kook?
No.
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 Is there anybody that was alive in your youth that you wish you would have met? Like, I never met Rav Moshe. It's one of the big. I wish I mean I was 9 when he was nifter, but I wish I would have. Is there anyone that you feel like you had the chance to?
No.
No.
But Rav Kook was very much revered and respected by the Imramis.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, downstairs in the study, I have a Siddur Sfas Emes. Perish in the Siddur is Sfas Emes. And there's a story that the Rabbi Imramis writes to his brother, the Pabenitzorov. He says, Esmon kishilamanite hichas pidyon ben. I raised the question of when you make a bris, the bracha a bris, and then there's a bracha ala mila, shechayonon. And I always wanted to know, the boy pregofen, do you have to drink it right after you make the bracha, or at the end? It's not shayla. So then I asked Rav Kook, Mora da Arde Yisrael, Goin v'choset, what to do. And that's what I do. Then he has a little line. As much as I admire him, he's going too far with this chibas ha'aretz, with the kibbutzim, but it's called him Hai, Goin v'choset. Then he also writes He came down to Israel for the first time, the Imramis, and he made some Thomas and Meisers. I asked Rav Kook, was a Kohen, do you make a Shechianu for the first time? You make Thomas and Meisers or not? So he told me yes. So I took Thomas and Meisers, Shechianu, and I gave the Trommel to Rav Kook himself. He was very close to him. He didn't agree with much of what he said.
Right. Okay, so let's jump back to America then. You were talking before about you went to YU and Dr. Belkin. You're saying that you met that when you went to YU, that's when you first encountered greatness.
Why did I come to YU? Uncle Bibi and I founded the Ezra movement in London. So the Paula Gula. And we wanted to make Aliyah. And my mother was not very happy. A new Medina, a new country, you don't know what's going to be there. You're married already, you have children. What's going to be? Let me go first. So they went first. They came back, my mother said, it's too soon. The country's developing. Anyway, and my parents, they moved from London to America for Panosa reasons. My father didn't make much of a living there. No, so with this baby I decided we still want Aliyah, but on the way we'll stop in London, someplace, until things can become more settled down. And this is when I met that period in Vienna and in London, great Gedolim, like Rabbi Abramsky, Rav Nachman Shlomo Grishman, Rabbi Lapian, who was related to him. And Rabbi Lapian is a story by itself. So this is how we came to America, on a meanwhile basis. By the time, meanwhile we do this. No, we accomplished this by sending our children to Eretz Yisrael instead of us.
Right.
So
when you first came to YU, what was your relationship with Dr. Belkin? How did you encounter him?
So my friends told me, if you want to get anywhere in America, I always wanted to be a rabbi. Not as a career, I wanted to relate to people. And I had a letter of recommendation from Chief Rabbi Brody, because I had a shul in London when I was in my 20s, a little shul, that was the rabbi there. And I had the letter of recommendation from Rav Abramsky.
Well, who started that shul? Was that an official position or?
Where? In London?
In London, yeah.
A few Jews got together, in a shtibel.
They asked you to be the rabbi?
Huh?
They asked you to be the rabbi? It was in your house? Where
Yeah, I was in our neighborhood. Wasn't for long.
Do you still have that letter from Rabbi Brody?
I have it downstairs in my study, and the letter of Rav Abramsky. Rav Abramsky was known to the ganze Welt, Cheskel Abramsky, Chazal Yecheskel. He became very, very close to my father. Why? My father was active in the Aguda movement for years. Then the war broke out, things changed, and he didn't want to be involved in coalition processes. He saw the Dreis and the Schweiz, so he worked for a printer, Naroditsky, who printed Sorim. And my father became, they also set the type for the print, became a Pashida worker. And Chazal Yecheskel, that Sefer was printed in that press, and my father read the Galley proofs. Rabbi Abramsky was so impressed. He was a worker in the press, became very close to Rabbi Abramsky. And to me, to our children, I was Rabbi Abramsky's official driver. And the driver's license. And he had to go and see Gevirim to raise money for the Keren HaTorah for the yeshivas, right? And I used to drive him around. Interesting man. So I come to Yeshiva University because they told me this is the place to go.
So Rabbi Brody wrote you a letter of recommendation for what? For a position in the Rabbanos?
Yes.
Uh-huh. And who, just to whom it may concern, or was it the specific?
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
I know this young man.
Did you actually know Rabbi Brody? Did you have a relationship with him at all?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Don't forget, English Jewry was a very small body of people.
Right.
Big titles, but a small body of people. So I come to America after my mother died in a plane crash. My father was here, and we decided to settle here for the time being. If I wanted a career in Rabbanos, the only place to go to was Yeshiva University. Interesting is, I was going to go to Torah Vodas. So my father said to me, Torah Vodas is not for you. Yeshiva University is for you.
Why?
He knew of those two institutions. He didn't like the Torah Vodas. He said, yeshivas, not yeshivas, from, not, yeah. You don't have to be educated in this. So I came to Rabbi Schonfeld's yeshiva, made an appointment with Dr. Belkin, a wonderful man. I sit down, who are you? You want to enter the yeshiva? Yes, why? I want to learn, become a Rav. All right. What's your background? A very nice conversation to find out who's this young man who comes to him. Right? My father pushed me to YU. He says, I never met Rabbi Yeshua Soloveitchik, he said. But I read his speeches, I read his articles. That's the man who should be your rabbi. All right? So the Belkin talks to me, and then he says, all right, go and see Rav Mendel Sachs, who was the Boichen, and see what he has to say. So Rav Mendel Sachs, and the letter I had was written by Rav Abramsky to Rav David Lipschitz, the new Yeshiva from Europe. I show the letter to Dr. Belkin, very impressed. Right? Rav Mendel Sachs, Rav David Lipschitz, yeah, okay. Okay, you go to Rav David Lipschitz's shir, Chulin Yerodei. But I want to go to the Rav shir. So he says, no, if Rav Soloveitchik may be masking, you can go there. You know, they're in Nidin at the time. Not an easy Masechta. And I was 4 days late after this man began. I'm sitting in the yeshiva, in the shir, and I had no idea what he's talking about. Gavre, Hefze, you know. After the shir, a couple of days, he says to me, you new here, right? Come and see me in my apartment. I'll talk to you, see who you are. And we talked, oh, Berlin, your in-laws, the Kovovitz. I knew him very well, Rabbi Kovovitz. He was a Yakish Rav, fine Poisik. All right, fine. And he reads the letter, then he says to me, you know, it's a good letter of recommendation. Aber zu lernen hat das gar nicht. You have to prove yourself. And I sit in that chair. I was the oldest man in the chair. The youngest was Aaron Lichtenstein. I'll tell you about his father later on. No, I sit in the chair.
How many people were in the shir altogether?
That time, 30, 40. I have pictures from that time.
Yeah.
After the shir, I come to see him. asked me a question. He knew of the Jacobovitz family, was already had an in there. I said, all right, come back tomorrow to the Shia. We see how you make out. I'm sitting in the Shia the next day. Have you learned Niddah?
A long time ago.
The Davchas is sugi of kat v'pere, difficult sugi. And the Rav sits, what's flying here? I'm coming out of the Shia and I was very, I wouldn't say depressed, but how am I going to make it in the Shia? Incidentally, in the same vein, in Bangor, Maine, there was a rabbi, his son lives in Teaneck now, forget his last name. There was a rabbi in Bangor, Maine. Right. And he came to the Shia too, knew, but he couldn't take it. The Rav in those years was a wild tiger. Narashish shtusim shtusim. So this Rabbi, Joseph was his name, Joseph. He went to Mr. Norman Abrams, who was secretary of the school. He said, I'm in the Shiva Soloveitchik. I went out. I want to leave the Shia. He says, why? I can't take it. Oh, this wilde Sachen. He used to get angry. Had to stuss him like this, you say. So the Rav says to him, I'm going to talk to you, to this Rabbi Singer, Rabbi Joseph. He said, I hear you want to leave my Shia, huh? And he says, yes. Why? I can't take it. I can't take this Derech HaLimud. He says, I'll tell you what. Tomorrow, you sit next to me. And don't worry, I won't eat you. I'm not a cannibal.
I'm not a,
And that's how I got into the Shia. But I was still walking around in the Shiva, not very happy as I mentioned, I forgot to mention, when I spoke to Dr. Belkin about tuition, he says, there's no tuition here. In our yeshiva, we do not charge for limud Torah. For the college, yes. But you already have your degree, University of London, your bachelor's. You come just for Torah. I thought he was joking. So if you want to know why I'm so pro-YU, because our children went there and I went there, did not cost me one single penny. I was there for 3 years in the Shia. That's how we built it. Anyway, after the Shia, a man comes walking over to me. An American guy. He said, hey, Limey, come over here. Know what Limey is?
yeah,
Limey, the English people going.
yeah.
Listen, no, you're a big jerk. Who are you? My name is Joe Gold. Became rabbi in Worcester. And you're sitting in the Shia, and you don't know what's flying, do you? I said, no. I'll teach you. So we had a chavrusa, he and I, and Moshe Tversky from Boston. And this Joe Gold became one of my truly, truly best friends. He had a funny way of expressing himself.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. And he opened the doors to me, to the thinking of risk, how the Rav constructs shiurim. One before Joe Gold would have been a big problem. He has a brother, Shalom Gold, who was in Yerushalayim, just published a book. So this was my early years. And you know how we have to go?
No. Did you ever go with Joe Gold to meet with Albert Einstein?
Now that story Maybe I did, I don't remember. I don't remember. Shalom Gold wrote that book. And he said, I remember very faintly, but I'm not saying no, I'm not saying, I just remember.
It's not something you would remember if you met Einstein?
I think so. But, I don't know, because you're going back 60 years. What I do remember is Joe Gold said to me, he was one of the best people in the shir. He was the only one that had the chutzpah to argue with Orff in the class. Right? The Joe Gold became one of my best friends. And his daughter became my best friends for Tammy. Chavi Gold. Do you know Chavi Gold? Yeah. So this Joe Gold,
I think Georgie's friend.
Joe Gold, he really rescued me. I've been sitting there.
So how many years were you in the Rav Shir? You're in the Rav Shir 4 years, right?
Almost.
And was Rabbi, I'll call him Joe Gold because that's what you're calling him. Was he in your shir the whole time?
Yeah,
All 4 years?
yeah.
What'd you do for Parnassa then?
Ooh. But I never.
Did you come? You came with a couple of kids to America.
First, I
Where
live,
did you go to yeshiva?
I live with my father in his house. But the yeshiva gave me a job right away. What was my job? To teach in Rabbi Rucham Geral's yeshiva, Zichar Moshe in the Bronx, and also to become the executive director, the youth director, Temple Israel in Great Neck. But to me, all this was strange. All right, teach yeshiva. They didn't pay me, they're supposed to. You know how they paid me? There's an executive director called Fishman. He says, we owe you salary money, you don't have any. We're having a theater party in Yiddish theater, and we sell tickets. I'll give you 200 tickets, sell them, and keep the money. Right? In that school, the teacher was the Briskerov son-in-law, chef. And I didn't have to pay rent. And I made a little money, okay. But as time went on, I began to be acquainted with the American way of life. See, in England, you could be my best friend. I would never say to you, Simcha Schonfeld. I'd say to you, Mr. Schonfeld, can I talk to you for a minute? And that's a Chaim Yaakov. Very
Formal.
Very formal.
So at what point did you get smicha?
Wait a minute.
All right. Okay.
But then I got into learning, and I became very close to the Rav, really. Some or other, with the Shemaim. Used to drive in, go to his house. As a matter of fact, as I'm just going over events, after the Rav lost his wife, Tanya. By that time, I was already a rabbi in a shul, you know. He had to go see somebody. Said to the Rav, I'll take you. All right. Sitting in the car, and he's very, very low, very morose, like I am these days. And I said, Rabbi, something bothering you? Yeah. Well, what bothers you? The Mizrahi movement came to me. I should become president of Mizrahi. It would help them in fundraising for the Mizrahi. I said, I'm not Mizrahi, I'm not a Gula, I'm a Rosh Yeshiva. I'm not a political creature. And they begged me. So I agreed. He said, today, it's almost a year and a half since my wife died. Would you think that any one of these Mizrahi leaders in that time frame would pick up the phone and say, Rav Soloveitchik, how are you? Not one of them. And I accepted this position, knowing it would cost me my relationship to my cousins in Yerushalayim, not the Brisker, Mizrahi. In fact, when I saw Avram Yeshua years ago, he said, my cousin, Amir Shemer, is not a Mizrahi. In Brisk, in the dock, a Mizrachnikis.
There's no Mizrahi.
Now, he said, I'm thinking of it. To the Ishlam thing, the one thing that mattered to the Rav most was human relationships, basic human decency. I become president of a dying movement, help them. How don't you have the feeling of Hakar Hatoiv? I lost my wife. You ever see the letter he wrote after his wife died?
No.
Tell you about it in a minute. This is why I'm so upset. You take me and use me, and not even have the decency to pick up a phone. I'm Soloveitchik. How are you? How are you doing? I'll never forget that scene in the car. And to show you, I'm just talking as I'm thinking. What he thought of that. There was a famous professor at the seminary called Ginsburg. He wrote a book, Legends of the Jews. A very scholarly book about Midrashim. Professor, what's his first name? Louis Ginsburg. This goes back not so many years. And he died. See, he died, I have to go by Menachem Avol. I couldn't go along, I had to be busy. But on the way back, I met the people that took him and told me the whole story. He came to the house of Louis Ginsburg, typical conservative atmosphere, and people were sitting there with their yarmulkes, those who had them, like this, you know, shouldn't fall off. and he sat and sat. Then people started whispering, Soloveitchik, Soloveitchik, Soloveitchik. So the son looked up and motioned me to come closer to him. Are you Rabbi Soloveitchik? I am. Did you ever meet my father? He said, I met him once. Right? I'm Hakim Nachem Esrim, and he went back. When I came back, I was in the building, so they told me what happened. That he was there, sat for 15 minutes, goodbye. But what's this business? I met your father once. So the Rav told us, that's why I was standing there. When my father, Moshe, was nifta, Louis Ginsburg came to Menachem Avol. Louis Ginsburg used to go to the Volozhin Yeshiva as a young fellow. And that was the only time I ever met him. He asked me, did you know my father? I said, I met him once. And the man goes back many years. So I felt a chiyuv to Menachem Avol because he went to see, that's called Menschlichkeit. And they said, Rabbi, you're sitting there and didn't say a word. The Gemara says in Brachos, the Betanya Shtikusin, the Schar Bikr of Nechem Avelim, it's not for what you say, what you don't say. And the Chachamim knew very well what to do. They gave you a formula. Why did they say it? Because what are you going to say to another one? Justifying the Rabbi Shalom and Matzlakas Nadin. And the Chacham understood if you say Amokim Menachem, the Rabbi Shalom give you the Chachamim. That's what you have to say. This is his Menschlichkeit that he had. You remember, his father came to him to Menachem Avol.
So how long were you by the Rav before you got smicha? 4 years?
In the Shia, about 2.5 years. And the story of my smicha is a miracle from heaven.
Yeah.
After being to the Shia 6 months, I got used to him. You know, a different story. I had a car, I used to drive in. We became very close. I became his sort of official driver. His Rebbetzin. There's a letter that's published in the newspaper of the Mizrahi in Israel. Not, 25 years ago. Where a woman, the name is Shaked, wrote a letter to the Rav. All these years, you're the great Rav Soloveitchik. Why did you ever think of coming to Israel to live? We need people like you in the SSI. So he answers her, it's all in writing. My wife and I had decided, a couple of years back, to make Aliyah. Because that's the way you have to be. That's how I can contribute. No. He said, meanwhile she died. And he says, Oilam Choshech Badi. Since she died, my world became darkness. And I identify with that. So now it's too late. He was very, very insistent on Hakar Sataif. And he said, what was the first Avera of Adam and Chava? Kafir Toiva. Isha Shenasati Madi. The first Avera. You're not familiar with English literature, are you?
Not like you are, for sure.
No.
Well, how does this play into your smicha?
Wait a minute.
Okay.
You ever heard of Milton?
I'll say yes.
Milton wrote a book called Paradise Lost, Paradise Regained, speaking about the sin of Adam and Chava. Man's first disobedience, sing heavenly views. There was very makbid on Hakar Sataif and Kfiyas Toiva. What did you ask me of Smicha?
Smicha, yeah, you said it was like a miracle from heaven, the story of your smicha.
Yeah. It was very interesting. Meanwhile, I became very, very close to him. And we were learning Masechtas Niddah at the time, and Mikvahs. And I got used to his learning. I'm not saying it was his best Talmud, it was not. His best Talmud really was Hershel Schachter and Aaron Lichtenstein. Now, Aaron Lichtenstein was the youngest in the Shia, and I was the oldest. So Aaron Lichtenstein, once in a while, would argue with the Rav in his Shia. And the Rav didn't like what he said. The Svara. He said, you know why you're saying this? Because you think you're an Ilui. Iluim amount to nothing. Look at me, I was an Ilui as a child. Yeah. And another one with whom we argued, Professor Joe Gold, and it was Shulman. You know Rabbi Shulman in this neighborhood?
Yeah.
Shmuel, his brother, Chaim Shulman. But the Rav was two personalities. His Rosh Yeshiva and his human being. Two different people. In the Shia, he would be ruthless. Why am I ruthless? I cannot stand stupidity. How many times he would say Shia, and he would, the Rambam, could make it out. He went to the window, said, I don't understand this Rambam. I got to think about it. He closed the Gemara and sent us home. The next day he came back and gave us a prayers. Now what happened to Smicha? The rule in YU was the Smicha Bechina, the examiners was the Rav, Dr. Belkin, and Rav Shatzker, Moshe Shatzkes, the Slutzker Rav. Moshe Shatzkes a typical European Rosh Yeshiva, who had no regard whatsoever for Amerikaner Bochum. Amerikaner Bochum, baseball. So we got the date for yes, and you had to know 2 Masechtas and Chelik Aleph Yerodei. And it was very nerve-wracking, you know, you have to know 2 Masechtas. Huh? And knowing means knowing, to know. So by that time, the Rav and this group of people like Joe Gold and others, very, very close to him. He said, "What?" He says, "But what are you so nervous about? The Bechina begins at 9 o'clock in the morning. 9 o'clock in the morning for 3 hours. Then came lunchtime. You came back in the afternoon. Another 3 hours. 6 hours. What's the big deal?" He said, okay. So the Borchan name was Dr. Belkin. He wasn't healing. And I remember telling you about him and Ginsburg. Not Ginsburg. This open Orthodox guy, what's his name?
Weiss?
Not Weiss. The tall blonde guy, I forget his name. He started a Klal organization. Klal. Male.
Tall, blonde, open over there?
His wife is also a macher in the women's section.
Who was years ago?
Greenberg.
Blue Greenberg?
Blue Greenberg.
Blonde. Maybe 50 years ago. He had hair.
Blue Greenberg. And what was his first name, Greenberg? It's
Irv, yes.
Yes, Greenberg. What was it? Oh yeah, by the Smicha program. All right. So the Rav said, look, it's called for 9 o'clock in the morning. I'll be back from Boston in time, and I'll take over the beginning. And I'll protect you from the Shatzka, Moshe Shatzkas. Moshe Shatzkas had a habit, he had no respect for Amerikaner Bochum. Amerikaner Bochum was garnish. And he had a way, if he asked you a question, and he thought you were doubtful, he would probe and kill you. Okay? Remember Yodea and Hilchos Trefes, Krum Shel Moyach, you remember this? That ending, the first in Yodea, if you find in the Krum Shel Moyach a problem, right? No, the dean of students was Rabbi, the sons of Rabbi. His son was a doctor. Who was the dean of students? You should remember.
Bacon?
No, before Bacon.
Before Bacon?
Yeah,
Abrams? Norman B. Abrams?
no. He taught Tanakh in Yeshiva.
He taught Tanakh?
Yeah.
Not Agus.
Not Eggers. Give me all the wrong names. Anyway, so the dean of students was very much on the side of students.
Hershkowitz?
No. He said, all right, the Rav will come in the morning, start the ball rolling, then be all right. That's what the Rav told us. Sag sich nicht. And this dean, what was his name? His wife is the secretary of Stern College. Esther, in charge of the women.
Was not Bacon? 'Cause Bacon
No, Bacon came much later. So he says, the Rav Soloveitchik hat gesagt etwas. Yeah, I said not to worry next morning. You got a lot to worry about. You'll be there at 9 o'clock? You're not going to be there at 9 o'clock. All right. I show up at 9 o'clock. Dr. Belkin is there, Shatzkas is there, the Rav isn't there. And Dean Zar. Remember Dean Zar?
That's way beyond.
No? S-A-A-R?
Oh my God.
Yeah. Wonderful man. He said, you got a lot of problems. He's not going to show up at 9 o'clock. And Shaskes will. He's going to kill you. By the time he comes in, we're all over. Okay, we come into the room, Dr. Belkin's office. Dr. Belkin, all right, das ist all in Yiddish. Let's get started. So Shaskes says to me, ihr habt gelernt die Halachas von Treifes, Yerodei. Bist du mal hier, darauf? Yerodei was the only topic in why you which had no Magid Shir. Rabbi sagt, you have a shir once in a while. We're all on your own. In the Masechtas, if you went to the Rav Shir and you remember his Torah, relatively not bad. Okay. You come in, the Rav isn't there. 10 o'clock, Mira Shatzkes goes to town on me. Sag mir einmal, was ist ein Moich? Moich. Ihr hat ein Moich. No? You had einmal gehört von Krumschel Moich? That we all knew, the Remo, the beginning of Treifes was a disaster. But nobody taught Treifes. And he goes in prime, and Dr. Belkin feels uncomfortable, you know. Then the Rav walks in. Rav walks in. No, Rav Shaskes, you have einen Verhörtschein. Bist du mir keiner gar nicht, ha? Ich am Fragen. So der Rav sagt, ich habe gefragt, Yerodei. Dann ganz mir sagt es. Sagt mir, der Nachkönig ist die Halachas auf Sova und Nidde. Die Gemara ist kein Rabbi Besodas, die meint Thomas Nidde und Thomas Siva. The Rav asked me, and that kind I knew. Oh. So you do know something, huh? This went the whole time. Then he says to Shaskes, let me remember. And the Rav in the town on me, but not on Treifes. On Reicher Shabbos. And Belkin sitting there, very upset. Was will Sie von? And Belkin says, no, es ist schon ein bisschen spät. Lass mal kommen zurück für Ihre Säge. All right. And Belkin says, ich habe eine Frage gescheidet. In Basel Becholov. Right? And Hechel Basel Becholov I knew well at the time. The whole business. Shit is Rabbi Fabian. Oh. So you do know something, right? So what we are sitting like this for? If you know something, you should be proud of what you know. Right? And then we went to Masechtas. Then they sent you out. And you come back. And there were two reactions. Yeah. No, mazel tov. Or, see you next year. One of the two. And I was up the whole night before with Herschel Friedman. Remember Herschel Friedman? Long Beach. Friedman. Herschel. Armin Friedman.
Oh yeah, from Long Island.
Yeah. He was my chavrusa for Yerodei. Sat up all night. All right, I come back in. Mazel tov. Ah, shame. So Zah meets me. I told you, don't rely on the Rav. The closer you are to him, the worse it's going to be for you. This was the story of my smicha.
And then, so how long after that did you get your first position in the Rabbanos in America?
Before that?
Was it before that?
Yeah.
Oh, it was before. So you.
When I was a Talmud, the yeshiva was supposed to give me some money. They got a stipend.
Right.
They gave us $10 a day. Ich weiß was. Couldn't make a living from this. But they got me in two jobs. One, the Rabbi Ruchem Gradik's yeshiva Zichar Moshe in the Bronx. And the other,
The youth director.
youth director in Temple Israel in Great Neck. I never heard of conservative youth before. Never heard. So I come Sunday morning to Great Neck. In Great Neck Road, there's a big building, looks like a church. I walk in there. Is this the temple? Yes. And, oh, you want Temple Israel. Not our synagogue. We are Reformed. Never heard of conservative before. So I had these two jobs. Waxman was the rabbi in Great Neck. So I made a living because I lived with my father.
But that wasn't a Steller and Rabbanah, so you weren't the rabbi of the shul there.
No, what happened was, I was in the yeshiva, and we started Young Israel in Nathan Saperstein's basement.
That was before you got smicha or after you got smicha?
Before.
Before.
But I was sort of the official rabbi there, not for payment.
So how did that come about? Did you know Nat Saperstein before the shul started, or? And
How did it come about? Because of my mother. My mother, you know, was nifter, was Frankreich. And my parents were living here. That time you had 20 from people in the neighborhood. And I had to say daven for them and say Kaddish. And the only minyan had a daily minyan was a conservative temple on Main Street during the week. Shabbos, we daven Rabbi Gelerntes Bismillah. This is how I got involved. So Rabbi Rucham Gerelik, years later, says to me, ich verstehe nicht. I always thought that you're from a younger man. Was tut ihr da in Yeshiva? I said to him, Rabbi Rucham, you're here. Ich dachte Panasse, but what do you do here? Maar niet beginnen, maar wat beginnen, you know? Interesting years in that yeshiva.
So how'd you get from Galanter into Nat Saperstein's basement?
Because the Jewish center had one room where Orthodox people moved in, davened. Not to be part of the temple. So with a minyan. That minyan grew. As it grew, Rabbi Kirschbaum of Shalom tried to stop us. He saw a little bit of a threat here.
He was a conservative rabbi?
Yeah.
Marshall's
Triangle,
father.
right?
The triangle. Yeah.
Marshall,
Yeah.
he was from Marshall's father.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. During Shavuos, he told the caretaker to turn off the lights. Yeah, he was all right. Later on, we became very good friends. I hit on her.
So when you started
But
in
when
that,
he did that, he then Nat Saperstein offered his basement instead?
Nav Saperstein was also davened in that minyan, and Samuel Apara, and a few others,
Yeah,
and
black.
Leon Blatt. Then they decided after Kirschman turned off the light, what do we need him for? We start our own.
so did you when you first and they knew you from the neighborhood? How did they get to you? What gave
Because
you
we
that-
did, because on Shabbos we davened together in the Stiebel. So then Leon Blatt says, by the way, can our young Israel here? So that Saperstein said, okay, give me my basement. That's how it got started.
But when did they ask you to head the minyan, to be the Rav?
Because I davened with them, now by the yeshiva, and was getting smicha. Said, okay, you be a rabbi. No, I didn't get paid. No, I got a few dollars here and there.
Did you think when that first started in Nat Saperstein's basement, did you think that this was going to be a long term? This was going to turn into a lifetime?
I thought so. My father didn't.
Yeah.
Because Dr. Belkin says to me, I've got positions for you in Portland, Oregon, Big Shul, and then in Worcester, Massachusetts. You know. So I tried out. In Worcester, Massachusetts, they made a breakfast club, and I was a candidate, so I spoke. I sat next to the president. This president was a member of the Reformed Temple, and a member of the Orthodox Shul by Joe Gold, and a member of the Conservative Temple. I said, what is this? Make up your mind. Where are you?
You said that to
He
him?
said, huh?
You said that to him?
Yeah, I mean, don't understand this. He said, listen, young man, I'm a member of the Reformed Temple because my law firm has 4 partners. They're all members of the Reformed Temple, so I have to be there too. At the Conservative Temple, my wife wants to sit next to me. Don't ask me why, but and then the Orthodox Shul, my father founded it, his father. So I was in all 3, typical American Judaism.
And that
Then, when we got smicha, the Rav said,
So why did you not? Was that the reason that you didn't want that position? Because
that wasn't for me, I saw what was going on there.
and what about in Portland?
And there was they had two Rabbanim there before. One was a Lubavitcher, and one was a Lisha Rosh Yeshiva. And they both didn't want me to come. I was a young guy, and they had the old Rabbanim. I never went to Portland for them. That never happened. So my father said to me, mach doch nicht narrisch. He says, nothing's going to happen this young. He said, a few schnorrers, they're going to make a shul. There's the one thing my father was not right.
So how long did it take until the shul, until it looked like this was going to be something?
A couple of years. We davened in the Seppelson's basement.
How long were you in the basement?
What year did that start, the basement?
In 50,
51.
the year of your bris. When were you born?
52.
52.
But in 54, they were already putting up this building, the big building, the first building.
That's not the
2
building.
years, from a basement, I always wondered about that, from the basement to the big shul. How did it grow? so
Because
fast?
people started moving in droves. We had 40, 50 members, but in a year we had 150.
How come?
People moved out from the Bronx and from Brooklyn, and the big move was on the way. The American Jews don't stay put.
So the basement must have filled up pretty quickly, I guess.
It did.
And then
But
you
we became very close to each other. Dave Lyman's son, Briss, was there. All these people. And how Kodesh Baruch Hu saw to it, that's all.
So then you how long did it take to build the shul, the big shul?
The big shul, 1956, 4 years. But meanwhile we had a
Oh, but the groundbreaking was in 54, I think, correct?
54 maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But meanwhile we had a little house where we davened. Meanwhile, they're called the White House, where today's youth building is.
And who owned that house?
We bought it, the people got together. I have to give that Seppelson credit. Had gerissen Geld von Teuten Lebedecker. He came up with, when you buy the certificate, what's it called?
Bonds?
The bond.
Bonds.
That's neither correct. I think that is right. I'm confusing my being 4 years old in 1954. In 56, when I was 4 years old,
That's when the
and
groundbreaking
I
was?
remember part of it, that the Department of Sanitation came with the drums and
But how
they-
long
and
did it
they-
take for the building to go up?
no, not too long.
Not too long, less than a year.
Wow.
But it's a I mean it holds what 600 people, the shul?
How did the shul make money? We had a Talmud Torah, a Hebrew school. In those years, who went to Hebrew school? American Jews who were religious but not from. After Bar Mitzvah, we had at one time 500 kids in the building. Then I hired Rabbi Rushfield. Once it started moving.
And during this time, from the 51 to 56, as the shul was growing, were you active already in the RCA?
Yeah. Then I heard there's an organization called the RCA, and I joined it, and that was it. The RCA has undergone all kinds of changes.
Well, it
So
still
the-
is, yeah.
So that they're going to Rabbanim, everybody.
And what was why you involved at all in the development of the shul? Were they helpful at all, or did they have any?
Yes,
involvement?
yes. Have to say so. With advice, giving me a position to help me. And then I became active in the rabbinic alumni, became president of the alumni. There are things that followed.
As the shul, as the neighborhood.
You know, I
was growing-
once took the Rav, when he went back to Boston, I drove him to 125th Street in Harlem, where the train went to Boston. By that time, I was close enough to him to talk to him. I said, Rabbi, tell me, do you find any difference in the Talmidim that you had in the late 40s and today or not? Yes, Doctor. Sure. The Talmidim had in the early days, they were the jobs, that's it. Today they want young men who want to be rabbanim. I find that. But they criticize them though for lack of Yiras Shamayim. I said to me, was es fehlt euch in Yiras Shamayim, soll mir zukommen. But I mean, let's face it, the RCA was at its greatest when the Rav was there, and Izzy Clavin was there, and people like me.
I can just jump back for a second. So obviously, in 1952, right? So my father's birth was in Nat Saperstein's basement. Was in the house.
In the house.
You have to
140,
watch the first video.
147, 56, 70 years old.
Years about the
He said, you have to be at 10 o'clock in the morning for coming to shir. Never showed up. So I drove back. He gave the shir, forgot when he came. And then the moil was Hananya Cohen, very fine man. And he starts going to work on the mitzvah. And the Rav made a face.
So
Then he said,
when you were in your younger years, I remember reading, I think it's in the Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky book, that you went to a nursing home once, and you met an old lady there. You know what I'm talking about?
The Baron's sister.
The Baron
oh,
sister.
yeah,
Gold.
Joe Gold.
What was that story?
Joe Gold is, remember Joe Gold? He didn't watch his language.
When we had the story,
He wasn't careful about his language.
Yeah. You've made that clear. He was not careful about his language.
Who's Joe Gold?
Yeah.
I was once in Gartenberg in Schechter for the summer, a convention, and they had a fauna. There was a schwitzboard,
Oh, Schwitz, yeah.
Yeah.
steam room, and Joe Gold is sitting there. He says, in this place, I don't have to worry about Lashon Nakia. And he said, we're going to the bottom half. He called them names. And he says to me, the only thing I disrespect you, he says to me, because you want to be a rabbi here. You know what you're asking for.
So what was the story when you went with him and you met your Baron?
Yeah, so he says to me, I want you to meet an old lady. Why? You'll find out there's an old nursing home near YU. And I come in, an old lady, gray-haired lady, okay. No, near YU. And Joe Gold was the kind of guy who found these people. He was a brilliant mathematician, Joe Gold. And he says to me, why don't you meet this old lady? I said, why? You'll find out. And she says to me, typical Lithuanian English, young man, what are you doing? You want to become a rabbi? Very not good idea. My brother is a rabbi someplace in Lakewood. So what became of him? Rabban's sister. And Rabban, she was in a nursing home at the end, would go every week to visit her.
Yeah.
Why? Rabban was a Yosem, no parents. And she raised him. And she tried to talk him out of going to yeshiva and learning what you need it for. So when Rav Reuven Grozowski was nifter, you know Rav Reuven?
Sure.
I went to the Levaya and Rav Aaron was masbet. He said, ich bin gekommen, Hakar Hataif, zu Rav Reuven. Hat mir herausgeschleppt von den Blattes. Remember the words? I said to Joe Gold, what's he talking about? Talking about, you met this old lady the other day? She's the sister of mine. And she wanted him to go to Paris to the Sorbonne to become a mathematician. And Rabbi Reuven stopped him. He stopped Rabban from doing this. He said, mir herausgeschleppt von den Blattes.
And you said, did you tell her that, do you appreciate what your brother is? I mean, did you respond to her at all?
No, she said, was my brother, what became if I'm a rabbi in Lakewood? Rabban was very close to her. Hakar Hataif.
Did you know her Baron at this time, or this is before you knew her Baron?
I knew, I met him once before in Vienna.
Oh, really? How'd that happen?
There was a meeting of the Meyatzes Gedoyle Teure in Vienna. This was in 36 or something. My father was secretary. So my father did one wonderful thing. Wherever the Gedoyle Yisrael came, he took me along to see what they are like. Right? I remember there was a meeting and a discussion of the Aguda collects money. Either they should go to Keren HaTorah for yeshivas or Keren HaYishuv for Eretz Yisrael. And Ravar was hot, young man with a red beard, I remember that. And he said the money has to go to the yeshiva man, not to the yeshiva Eretz Yisrael. And he fought for that battle.
Who else was at that meeting?
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember he said, wie sagt er gegen die Mishnah?
Nice, that's right.
He said, Talmud, kein Amoretz, kein Gott Amoretz, with Talmud Chacham, who comes first? Talmud Chacham.
Mamze Kohen Gadol.
Kein God.
Kohen Gadol, Mamze Kohen Gadol, Amoretz, and Mamze Talmud Chacham.
Talmud Chacham.
Yeah.
So somebody got up, I think that leader up. Rav, so wäre der Mamze. I tell you what Rav said, when we built our shul, the architect was David Mowat, an Orthodox guy. And he told me the story. He built the Bismadish Gevoya in Lakewood, this David Mowat. He said they had this specification plans and they came to across some problem. It didn't make sense. And the Rav comes in, he says, what's the problem here? They showed him the drawing, something is wrong. Rav said, this is it, this over here. They made a mistake in the drawing. So they asked Rav, how did you know? I'm a kenner bissel Rashi mit Teisvis kann das sagen.
Who else was at that Moetzes meeting was it 1936, you said? Do you remember who else was there?
Wasn't Rav Rosenheim, wasn't he there?
Not Rav, Jakob Rosenheim.
Jacob Rosenheim.
Yeah, Jakob Rosenheim, Rav got angry at something and he threw an inkwell on the table. So Jakob Rosenheim, the Jakob said, Herr Rabbiner, he said, wie ich sagte immer sagt, Kalakoyes geht auch wieder bei der Sorge.
You went to any other Moetzes meetings?
You know, Ravaren, I have 2 letters from Ravaren, in which I gave him the Shlomo, he didn't believe him, he has them, the copy. He called me Yedidi Meyaz, Yedidai Yager Aaron Kotler. What was the thing? I was sitting in my office, I got a call from the Rav. He said to me, do you have time to come to see me? So I have a question you have? Sure. My secretary was a woman called, what was her name? Dottie Kale. A real red-headed American woman. I said, I'll be back as soon as I can. The Rav says to me, I got a call from Rav. They're making a dinner for Chinuch Atzmoi. And they want to honor me. Rav.
Rav or they wanted to honor the Rav?
Ma Rav. And I said, on the one condition, if you, Rav Salvation, will be the guest speaker. I have it right here in this shelf, the dosha. So the Rav said, I'll let you know. He wanted the Rav to give him a chairman from the RCA to run a campaign for Chinuch Atzmoi. So the Rav says to me, I looked through all my Talmidim, every one of them. I don't trust any of them to work for Torah Messiah. You I trust. You'll do it. I said, sure, if you want me to, okay. I come back to the office and the phone rings. My secretary takes the phone. What are you saying? What are you saying? Rabbi, just a minute. There's some old Jew on the phone, speaks Yiddish. His name is Kotler. What does he want? I pick up the phone, I didn't read anything. Rabbi Schonfeld. The Red Kotler. Yeah, what do you want? Kotler from Lakewood. And I took the campaign, they did a lot of money for the RCA, and Rabbi said to me, he's very grateful to me for that.
You didn't get any resistance? I mean, the Chinuch Hatzmai is not exactly
No,
consistent with RCA.
because the Rav was going to be the guest speaker on the Rav.
So
I have the whole droshe right here over my bed.
So sitting, so moving back to the shul then, so now let's say in 1956, I said, you said, right? It was 54, 56 old,
Yeah.
right? So at some point, your role expanded beyond just Two Garden Hills. I mean, at that point, now you're an established rabbi,
Yeah.
right? I mean, how did that? How did you sort of branch out beyond the neighborhood? Was it through the RCA?
But you're going to become a Supreme Court justice. I was going to ask you how, when did it happen? It just
You don't
happened.
need to tell everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it ever happens, I'll tell the whole story.
Yeah.
But your role in the RCA, but before you, what year did you become president? 1975?
No, earlier.
Earlier than that.
Earlier?
Right, I think it was when I was in Mitzvah, it was like 69, 70, 71, around then, I think.
Yeah.
And so what were the big issues back then, during your time?
The big issue was Synagogue Council of America.
There was interfaith dialogues?
Interfaith dialogue, but then altogether, can you join a group of so-called rabbis who are not Shomer Mitzvahs? The Rav was never in favor of it. He just didn't stop it. There's a famous Issa by 11 Rosh Hashiva. Know about that? 11 Rosh Hashiva put out the Issa. You cannot belong to the Synagogue Council of America or the New York Board of Rabbis. But the Synagogue of America at that time was an important organization. As a matter of fact, when Nixon became president, he wanted to recruit yeshiva people into the army during the Vietnamese War. So the Rosh Hashiva came to me and said, can you help us out? And the RCA did, through our contacts. And Nixon nixed the whole thing.
So you became politically active through the RCA?
Very much.
Did yeah.
You mean American politics?
American politics, yeah.
Yeah, I supported the Reagan. You saw the picture of myself with Reagan?
I know you spoke at the Republican convention in 1980.
I often did the prayer.
Yeah.
The invocation.
The
And
invocation.
that time was in the summer, when the Rav said shiurim, which I organized. See, after his wife died, he said shiurim in Boston in the summertime, just to keep it up, right? So we organized the Tanya Soloveitchik Chevra Shas. We started at YU, and the Rav gave shiurim Tuesday night, then for this Wednesday night. Right or wrong, very few people showed up. Busy rabbis said. Then I came to him and said, in the summertime, we have vacation, can we have shiurim? He says, I'm ready, but you're not ready. You make a Soloveitchik, Tanya Soloveitchik, Chevra Shas. Who showed up? 4 or 5 people showed up. I was very upset by it. But this in Boston grew from 10, 11 Talmidim, became 80 and 90 every summer.
Right. And so what? How did you become acquainted with President Reagan? How did you get to know him?
How to get to know him? We had a young man in Queens called Marshall Berger.
Brager.
Huh?
Brager.
Brager. I was sort of from. He was a big macher of the Republican Party. When I came to the convention, he said, if you want this convention to succeed, you've got to show that the Democratic Party, people, Amcha, will support you, Republican president. Now, how does your father get active? The congressman. That's why you do it. One thing leads to another.
So you met with President Reagan?
Of course.
How many times?
4 or 5 times.
What did you talk about? Do you remember?
Nothing very much. He called me up to come to Washington after the election to thank me personally for opening the convention. I have the picture here someplace. With appreciation of Ronald Reagan.
Did he want
Interessant. This convention coincided with the shiurim in Boston. And I said, it wasn't right for me to go to the convention when the Rav gives shiurim. I told the Rav says, it's all right. You go. But you go, make sure they accept you. We may need the Republicans. My shiurim, you hear it on tape, is it?
So, and you did you meet with President Reagan in the White House also after he was
In the White House,
Yeah.
the Oval Room.
Is it
I think you have the picture, Phyllis.
Of what?
A picture with you and
No.
President Reagan? I've never seen
I
it.
have a picture?
You took it once. You needed it for some.
No.
Yeah.
I took the picture of you with Menachem Begin, which is right there.
Somewhere or other.
There's a cool story that Reagan wanted to come to the shul. and
Yeah,
brought
did
him.
President Reagan wanted to come to the shul?
Sure.
What was the story?
The election for the second time around came to Queens, and he wanted to meet the Jewish community, and they wanted to come to our shul for Friday afternoon.
Friday afternoon?
Yeah, he was traveling through, an hour's meeting, public meeting. And I didn't like the idea. Erev Shabbos, got the Chilul Shabbos, nach. So I turned him down. So instead, he went to from the conservative temple, Eugene Friedman, very nice guy.
The diplomat Friedman's father, David Friedman's father.
Who?
Oh,
That's
the-
David Friedman, the ambassador to Israel, his father, Morris Friedman.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's him.
that's him.
Morris
Rosie
Friedman.
Gluck's father-in-law?
Rosie Gluck's, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
This Friedman went to YU. In those days, if you wanted to make a career, you left YU and went to the seminary.
Did you have anything to do? Did you ever meet Carter or Ford?
Oh.
or Nixon?
Carter came down shul to speak.
Yeah.
Still fumigating.
I have the letter someplace. I've got to ask Susan Zimmerman. We filed it away. He answered me six pages. He wrote to me
What did he write?
about Israel. Wow.
So he came to shul to speak for a campaign event.
Yeah, he was campaigning for president.
This is for his first term or for re-election? When he was already president, or when he was?
No, he wasn't president yet. So did Bill Clinton
Bill Clinton spoke in our shul.
What?
on a campaign. As I came in campaigns. Nobody was president.
Right. In the shul he spoke.
Yeah.
We were teenagers then. You
Yeah.
weren't.
So did Carter.
What about? Did you have any sort of? Well, I guess if he wrote you a 6-page letter, I guess you had something to do with him.
Who?
It's too bad you weren't able to have any influence
Sway,
over
any
him.
sway over him.
In fact, in the re-election, that he debated. David Lukens, you debated.
David Lukens, yeah.
In favor of who?
Reagan.
Lukens was favor of Carter, and that is in favor of Reagan.
This was favor.
And Nixon, did you have anything to do with Nixon?
Met him once.
Where did you meet him?
We went to see him. There was Herrscher Schechter, the other Herrscher Schechter, and 4 or 5 of us, on the issue of Israeli politics and Arab conflict. Now we went into Soviet Jewry or something. In the Oval Office, he was sitting in the Oval Office, and in an armchair, and Kissinger was sitting on the other side. And we talked about it. He said, I'm not pro-Arab, I'm not pro-Israel, I'm pro-peace. He says, in case you doubt my loyalty to the Jewish people, during the time of the Yom Kippur War, Israel was at Soros, armaments. And Matzah Hoshana Rabbah, Matzah Sukkot, I got a call from the Israeli ambassador, not Dubin. The English is the South African, Abba Ibn. He wants to meet with us, with Hillary Clavin, the advice of myself, Izzy Clavin, to use our political influence for America to resupply the Israeli army. Never forget that. He also met with a conservative, but separately. Interesting enough, Louis Bernstein was a political animal. He said, "You'll have it." When he met with the conservative, they said, "We'll help you, but we want full recognition of conservative Judaism in Israel." Yeah. They're the big Jews.
But 1 second, I'm not. So you met with Nixon about the armaments, or this is he was telling you the story? I'm not clear what he's saying.
We went with Nixon, to plead Israel's case. So he said, "I have to prove it to you." He said, during the Yom Kippur War, forget the occasion now, Israel needed help.
But you didn't meet with him about the Yom Kippur War, though.
And right after Yom Kippur War, he said, when Israel traveled, he wanted to send 5 planes of ammunition by the Kissinger. He and I sent 50, he said.
50. And what about during the Gulf War? Did you have any when Israel was under attack, did you have any meetings with the president?
Don't forget, the President's Conference was very important in those days.
I remember.
And Malcolm Hoenlein deserves all the credit in the world. There's no limit to what he can do.
What about during the Gulf War? You met President Bush?
One thing we succeeded in doing, President's Conference, that nobody wants to be chairman of the conference can be intermarried. If you're intermarried, you can't be president. So they got upset.
And during the Gulf War, did you meet with President Bush during the Gulf War?
I don't have any more.
I think you once told me a story about Bush and Colin Powell. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, the President's Conference. That was not Bush. That was Colin Powell came to speak. And somebody asked him, the lady from...
Was it Willie, Toby Willie?
Nah, from Hadassah, the woman. She said, "I'm told that you speak Yiddish." Colin Powell said, "Yeah, ich verstehe ganz gut Yiddish." Right. After that question answer, she gets up and she says, "Mr. General, du on Yiddish, du hast gesagt früher," he stopped. "Zu mir sagt man nicht du, zu mir sagt man ihr." And he told us how it happened that he spoke Yiddish. He lived in the Bronx. His father was the custodian of the building in the Bronx, the Shabbos guy. And Friday night we had a collection of challahs and stuff. They gave each one some food for Shabbos. What did I do? My job was, there was a Jewish fellow who had a 5 and 9 store. And he was selling strollers. Children's strollers. And people came in to buy one. Jewish customers. I'm doch lieb zu handeln, you know. So I want you to go to the 2nd floor where these strollers are and listen to the people how much they're willing to pay. They're willing to pay, and I would advertise $40. And they would say, $40. 35, and you find out how much you're willing to pay. And this is what I told him I'll take. He reported back to his boss. They wanted to give $20 for this stroller. All right. That's how I learned to speak Yiddish.
So, and how did you find that
I think there's a car in the driveway, is there?
that the expansion of the
If there's
shul
no
and
car in the
of
driveway,
your
then
role
you
as
can
the
The truth is, I always felt
Just a second.
that the neighborhood,
It's very late. What time are you supposed to be here?
that the neighborhood abhors a vacuum. So when the rabbis moved in, and they didn't have a minion, like Schonfeld, Margulis was his name, and others. The one on the corner, Rabbi Wiesel, came to see me. He said, but mir eingereiht, I should move to Queens and start as a new neighborhood. I'm here 4 weeks, I can't get a minion in Shabbos. I said, Rabbi Wiesel, next Shabbos you'll have a minion. So I talked to your father and others, I think love, and for 2 or 3 weeks, we made the minion for him. Shlomo Shapira, no other neighbor would let him in. I encouraged him.
At what point did you become, maybe always, but at what point did you also become active in Israeli politics?
I don't know. The Gemara says Shabbat made enough for keeping the alone. How's your father become involved?
No, but I'm saying, who was the first prime minister of Israel that you had some sort of a relationship with? Was it Begin?
Before Begin.
Golda Meir, who was it?
Golda Meir to some extent, Shertok. Shertok's name was, he changed it.
Shazar?
Huh?
Shertok was never prime minister.
Moshe Shertok. He
Prime
changed it.
minister or president?
He became prime minister.
Shertok.
He said he changed his name.
Zalman Shazar, you talking about?
Shazar was president.
Shertok.
Who was it? Eshkol event.
Levi Eshkol.
Levi Eshkol. We came to see Levi Eshkol after the 6 Day War was over, and he said, the Tzore is, that the Naden is a Shena Naden, and the Kal is a Miese. To get all the territory, but look what you get with it. They love to speak Yiddish, all these guys.
Yeah. Well, Golda Meir was American.
Golda Meir came to YU, and she received a tremendous reception. And the hall, what's the hall called in YU? Lampert Hall. The girls from the high school brought her flowers. The boys gave her chocolates and like, and she got up to speak. And she said, I just came from Boston, from university, the Jewish university. What's it called? No, I just,
Maimonides?
not Maimonides.
Jewish University in Boston.
Brandeis.
Oh.
In Brandeis, I received foul eggs, rotten apples. So because I'm not giving in, and I come here, look what I get. And she said, you know why I am like this? She was raised in Milwaukee, but she came from Russia. She says, my father, it's a momentous speech. My father was one of Nikolansky's soldiers. Tsar Nicholas used to kidnap kids in the street and put them in the army. Teenagers. He had to serve for 25 years. She says, 20? 25, I think. And my father was in the Russian army all his life in the army. He never ate one piece of treif meat. This is why I'm who I am.
She ate lobster.
And so how? But the I guess the person
Moshe.
you had the most admiration for, and probably the biggest, closest relationship with, was Menachem Begin, right? How did you get to know him?
I often ask myself the question. You know, they asked the Bes Yisrael, asked him, someone came, a Rebbe came to him, another Rebbe. Sagte, der Gerrer Rebbe sagte, darf nicht verarmt. Doesn't blow shofar, doesn't rain, doesn't get bracha chita. What does he do? Mit wo sind die Rebbe? Sagt ich frage auch so.
You knew Menachem Begin before he was prime minister, I'm sure, right?
I knew of him. Met him a few times. I'll tell you what happened. When he came on the scene, the many people in the RCA, like Walter Wurzburger, who were no part of him, he's a fascist. No, very anti. I said, the man is a hero. What did and I took him to Stern College to speak. I took him to YU to speak. That's,
Didn't you, Manny Holzer, Rabbi Holzer, have a reception for him in his house?
yeah, when he came to our shul to speak, Manny Holzer made dinner for him in his house.
I forgot about it.
Just grant it.
Menachem Begin deserves a praise. The Rav said, the biggest Kiddush Hashem, Menachem Begin.
Why?
Menachem Begin told me he was here in official business. He wants to meet Rav Soloveitchik. The Brisker from Brisk, right?
Begin's from Brisk?
Yeah. The Begin's father was secretary of the Kehillah. The Rav used to call him the Heicha Begin. He was storyteller. And Menachem Begin. So Menachem Begin was here, and that picture was taken young Israel of Forest Hills at the dinner. Menachem Begin, he was already in office, whatever, and he came to the United Nations to meet with that Nazi, what was his name, Kurt Waldheim. And we had to pick up Menachem Begin to take him uptown to see the Rav. The Rav said to meet Menachem Begin, sure, well, of course. But tell him, not before 3 o'clock. My she is from 3 o'clock. So we picked him up in the world of Astoria, and he said, I just finished meeting with that guy, he said. Yeah. And he says to me, why aren't you more magnanimous? You defeated the Arabs. Sure, I know, but what else do you want? So I told him. Then Menachem Begin had a way when he spoke to one person, like he would be speaking to 500. Oh, you see? He said, I was sitting in the armchair, and so was Waldheim. And he gave me that spiel, magnanimous and shame. I said to him, Mr. Secretary, in Germany there are 2 rivers, the Danube and the Rhine. The Rhine is known as the Weiße Rhine, the White Rhine, and the Danube, the Blue Danube, is quiet water. That is a mistake. They both should be called the Red Rhine and the Red Danube, because it's filled with the blood of Jews whom your ancestors killed.
And he himself was part of it, as it turns out.
Yeah, Waldheim himself, yeah.
Anyway, so we went uptown. It was about 3 o'clock, and the Rav was in the shir. And I said to him, I told the story.
Yeah.
So he said, we'll have to stop soon. So I said to him, tell me, what makes you tick? Menachem Begin, what makes you tick? He said, I was a boy, I was age 7 or 8. I was walking in Brisk with my father, and Al Simcha Zedek, that Brisker dying. And he's standing there, and in walks, and by walks a soldier, Polish soldier, he starts putting on Al Simcha Zedek by the beard. So my father took his cane, walking cane, and hit him over the head. And Begin's words, Al Pines, the guy's not laughing. So Simcha Zedek said to him, Rav Wolf, Begin, how did you dare do this? Could have killed you. Sagt 2 points. Wenn man weiß nach Goy, also Yid schleppt man dich bei der Boot. You don't do this and get away with it. And secondly, what could you have done to me? Killed me? Don't kill it, Hashem. I was a little boy with my sister. Those words stuck in my mind my whole life. A Yid is not great Kiddush Hashem. That's the way I lived. And this is the way I am today. You've got to be a proud Jew, you've got to the whole linear of the peace process is getting late. Shani? Anyway,
You done?
and the peace process. So, who was the president? Carter, Jimmy Carter. In the White House lawn, big celebration of the peace. Simcha.
Yeah.
Oh, you know the story with Tehillim?
No.
And who was there? Jimmy Carter, the president of the United States, Sadat, and Begin. They make speeches, and everybody's clapping, clapping, clapping. And I sit next to him, he's an army officer. He went like this. Was that Zilla Shaveh Klum? He said, that's going to show. He said, now we will hear from Israel's Prime Minister, Mr. Begin. He reaches in his pocket, deliberately, takes out a big yarmulke, puts it on his head to be sure that it fits. He was a big actor too. And began to say, Shir Amanos, Shir Amanos, Yom Goyim. And he finishes. He says, ladies and gentlemen, I just read from the Psalms, number whatever. He says, English translation, if you're interested, you find in the Psalms. So the Rav heard about this. Now this is Kiddush Hashem. Something Hashem for going. Not quoted the Psalms in English. Lashon Kodesh.
Okay, it's getting late. I want to ask you one final question, which is a loaded one. But you seem to, throughout your life, you had your feet in so many different worlds at the same time.
That's true.
A YU Muslim speaking at the Chinuch Hatzmai, chairing the Chinuch Hatzmai dinner for Baron Cutler, and a Ger Chassid, and a Zionist. And
When I was in the hospital,
Student of Hirsch.
a Hirsch. It's how and none of them ever really somehow conflicted.
do you know where I got it from? Partially from the Rav, but mostly from my father.
No. He was like that.
How was the Rav like that? The Rav was a Litvak, period.
What?
The Rav was a Litvak, end of story. Why would you say you got that from the Rav?
No, the Hashkafas HaChaim,
Oh.
that's what I'm talking about.
No, I simply was asking you, how did you meld it all together? How did you keep your feet in all these?
How did you stay true to Ger and to Brisk and to Soloveitchik and to Hirsch and to Cutler and to Lubavitch even, and without them ever stepping on each other, without with all them being
Because my father did the same thing. But he was secretary of the Aguda. And also, I'll tell you why. Because at the time when I do these things, I believe in them. I believe in them. Tzibur means you believe in what you're doing. And the interesting thing is this. My first time was in the hospital in Mount Sinai with my thyroiditis. No change of hip.
replacement.
I got flowers from Hadassah. I got a letter of good wishes from the other secular organizations. You know why? Because the Rav used to tell us, so did my father, Rav Shalom, you have an opinion, you state it, but don't insult other people. Never become ad personam. You don't say you're stupid, say what you say does not make sense. When the Reformer, I used to have arguments in synagogue council, I never called them names, I never said anything that should offend them. That's a good question. My whole education, my father fashioned. In 1937, my father wanted to send me to Germany, to Frankfurt, the yeshiva in Frankfurt, the Breuer, the Hirsch yeshiva. 37, the Nazis were there already, but it was tolerable. He was a great admirer of Yekkes. Not Yekkes the people, that he didn't like, but Yekkes philosophy. My father tried to, he exceeded to some extent, to
He was a
translate.
critic of Hirsch, wasn't he?
Who?
The Rav. Oh, I'm sorry, come on, sorry.
No, the Rav was an admirer of Hirsch. He tried, Bereshis and Noach, he did in the Hebrew, translation of Hirsch. And then what happened to it?
Yeah, but he did not appreciate him of Chumash.
Tehillim.
Or the whole Torah Derech Eretz philosophy.
Yeah. No. The Rav said, the Rav was critical of Hirsch, but he said that one of the best Perushim of Tehillim is Hirsch. If you go to Tehillim with Hirsch's, then you understand that God was the Rabbi Shalom.
So the bottom line is that that your Opa's plan for you to learn by the Rav ended up working out.
Huh?
I said your father's plan for you to learn by the Rav ended up working out.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Abizad, I think that's a good start.
Oh, anytime.
There's still more to come.
I think I'm max. I could do this forever, but I
can
still
send
have
in-
more questions to ask you. But I'm
I'd
out of
like to
points.
ask you a question. Are you a Zionist or not?
No.
But
What is
strike that from the record?
No? Depends on the Zionist.
What do you mean? How do you define it when you're answering the term no?
If you're a Zionist, means for the sake of Zion, you'll do anything. And I wouldn't. If the martial Israeli government, well, it's politics already. That Zionism, how do you define Zionism? That's our problem. I'm not a Zionist. Everybody's a Zionist. Remember ZOA? I mean,
Are you religious? Do you believe Reishis Smichas Gulasenu?
absolutely.
Okay, but you're not.
Because the Gemara Megillah, Shimon HaPekuli. You learn Megillah, give it a set of the brachas.
It's the only place I think in Shas that the term appears.
And they said,
It's
the Milchamas, before God Yisrael, says the Gemara, Milchamas Aschalta the Gil.
So so Reishis Smichas Gulasenu, yes, but Zionism, no.
So now you say, in the Jewish link, Rabbi Schonfeld is not a Zionist. So you can't be a Zionist and believe 50 different versions of it. A Jewish state, not a Jewish state. In that sense, I mean.
Right.
If a Zionist, you mean whatever the state of Israel does is right? No. And if Zionism takes preference over the Torah? No. But a true Zionist is one who believes in all this. Kimitzian Tetzes Torah. All right.
Okay, Abuzadi, thank you. This is enlightening. I was going to ask you about all the Arab leaders that you met, but I figured we could leave that out. I remember you met with King Hussein. I remember when you met, right? When he told you you are cousins, right?
Yeah.
What was his response?
No, he said that.
Oh,
Hussein said that to
Hussein
the.
said that.
Yeah.
And you said.
We met Hussein in his palace in Amman. We met him in New York.
Did you meet any other Arab? You never met Sadat, did you?
No.
How did he respond to him?
How did you respond when King Hussein said, "You're our cousins"?
I don't
Can't pick
remember.
your relatives.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.